Vehicles piled up like mountains in the midst of a chaotic and bewildering scene among the weeds, making it difficult for people to understand. At a car park in Guangdong, there are lots of cars lined up, each one bought with a lot of effort by workers who saved every penny. With all these cars, people wonder, where will they go next? Law enforcement officers confiscate illegally operated electric bicycles on the streets without notifying the owners, simply towing them away. An elderly person leans on a cane nearby, anxiously searching for their tricycle. The streets resemble a sprawling parking lot for electric vehicles seized by Chinese traffic authorities. These vehicles, including bicycles and motorcycles, are owned by ordinary citizens and are used for daily transportation. In cities like Zhongshan, Guangdong, and Guangzhou, hundreds of vehicles are impounded daily and stored in designated lots. Many speculate that the government's motive behind this action is to compel individuals to purchase newer and more expensive vehicles, dubbing it as consumption upgrading. The crackdown originated in Shenzhen in 2023 and swiftly spread nationwide. Instances of individuals attempting to evade law enforcement or awakening to discover their vehicles missing have become commonplace. Police officers are inspecting vehicles and seizing those lacking proper documentation or exceeding weight limits. Despite the significant investment required to purchase these vehicles, confiscated units ultimately end up as piles of scrap. This phenomenon is occurring across nearly every city in China, presenting an unprecedented spectacle not witnessed elsewhere. Netizens lamented the loss of their electric bicycles, confiscated by the police. The deliverman's electric bike was detained by security guards, and he knelt down and cried bitterly. What right do security guards have to detain the deliverman's bike? On May 18, Guangdong, a woman had her electric bike confiscated by traffic police. She stood helplessly, wiping away tears silently. This footage, captured by roadside surveillance cameras, depicts a highly infuriating scene. A single mother, delivering food as a delivery driver, had her electric bike locked by a security guard. Despite the mother's earnest pleas, the security guard insisted on stringent demands. Can't I even have a meal? Is it easy for me to survive in this city? Oh, I'm so upset. I haven't even had a meal yet, why are you pulling me? Look inside my bag, what do you see? I'll show you everything I've got. The Chinese Communist Party heavily promotes electric bicycles as a key industry for new energy. Despite being legal to produce, sell, and buy, driving them has become nearly impossible due to arbitrary checkpoints set up by traffic police. Electric bikes are confiscated for various reasons, and fines, which can amount to 2,000 or 3,000 yen plus parking fees, often result in the loss of the bike altogether. This raises questions about citizens' property rights, which seem non-existent to enforcers who justify confiscation as being for the country. The sudden crackdown on electric bikes mirrors past bans on motorcycles, but this move puzzles netizens who see it as detrimental to economic growth. They argue that if old vehicles aren't replaced with new ones, how will GDP increase, consumption rise, or domestic demand be stimulated? This cycle of confiscation feels like a preview of upcoming exchanges for new cars and appliances, leaving many netizens worried about their belongings. At a press briefing held on March 6, Xi'an, the director of China's National Development and Reform Commission, highlighted the critical need for extensive equipment upgrades. He stressed that promoting the exchange of old consumer goods for new ones stands as a crucial initiative endorsed by the Party Central Committee and the State Council, with a primary focus on fostering high-quality development. This effort not only spurs consumption but also strengthens advanced production capabilities, improves production efficiency, and advances energy conservation and carbon reduction initiatives while addressing safety concerns. Investments in China's industry and agriculture sectors reached approximately $754 million last year. The demand for equipment upgrades is expected to continue growing, with initial estimates indicating an annual scale exceeding $769 million. While opportunities in the market seem promising, some individuals and businesses are gearing up to capitalize on them. However, for small and medium-sized enterprises, especially those in the private sector, the absence of substantial government subsidies to level the playing field with state-owned enterprises poses significant challenges for survival, let alone equipment upgrades. Common citizens are more preoccupied with the fate of their cars and home appliances rather than the upgrades of business equipment. Minister of Commerce Wang Tao has unveiled plans to promote the upgrading of old cars and home appliances this year, emphasizing its role in boosting consumption. China's automotive and home appliance markets have evolved from a phase of rapid growth to one characterized by both growth and inventory coexistence. In 2023, Chinese citizens own 340 million cars, and the number of major home appliances, including refrigerators, washing machines, and air conditioners, exceeded 3 billion units, indicating substantial demand and potential for upgrades. Many people think that electric cars aren't made for regular folks, but instead cater to the wealthy. They're unhappy about the quality and reliability of locally made electric cars, pointing out issues like updates that ruin battery life, how fast the cars lose value, and how expensive they are to fix. These citizens have also shared stories from car dealerships, highlighting the problems and difficulties of owning and driving these cars. According to reliable sources, there's a massive amount of unsold Ideal vehicles, and now they're being exported to Russia through the means of selling them as used cars. They're all parked at this border crossing. Last month, Ideal announced the sales numbers for the first week of 2024, and it was only 5,000 units. Some people are saying this doesn't make sense, it's different from what they saw online. In December, they were selling 50,000 units in a month. What this means is that they only sold around 20,000 units for the whole month, a sudden drop of 60% in sales. Some netizens asked me what I think about it. It's better for them to close down early. This new energy thing doesn't suit ordinary people, it's bought by the wealthy. New energy vehicles below $13,900 are still acceptable, but those priced at $27,700 or $41,600, buying them is like losing money every year. You spend $27,700 or $41,600 to buy a new energy vehicle. The current Ideal is still acceptable, still holds its value. But a new car that costs $97,000 loses over $13,900 in value in a year. Now, there's no demand for a second-hand car that's only worth $27,700 in a year. This is outrageous, isn't it? Brothers, those who bought the $97,000 car must be regretting it. Oh, sorry, I digressed. Let's continue talking about Ideal. Look at how many issues have been exposed. Over the past 2 or 3 years, there have been issues with the ABC columns posted online, windshield cracking issues, reverse gear problems, and sunroof damage issues. Including the controller for the rear seats in the previous Ideal 1 model, there's a problem where it gets shorted out when a child pees on it. Also, the second row seats, which are called automatic big cargo, automatically heat up in the summer. From inside to outside, all the issues with this car have been exposed now. Except for the driver's seat, the first row seats rarely have problems, but everywhere else is basically problematic. What do you call this? To put it in a common saying, it's riddled with issues, yet they blame it on postpartum recovery. I've been driving my car for about a year and a half, covering 180,000 kilometers, so you could say I'm quite an experienced driver. Let me share with you my experience with buying a domestic brand of new energy vehicle. There are some unexpected impacts that come with it. For instance, there's this thing where your car gets forcibly updated while it's parked at home. One update can decrease your range by 100 kilometers, significantly reducing the available battery capacity. That's how it goes. It happened to me back on August 29, 2023. One morning, my car suddenly started making noise. I went downstairs to check why it was making noise, and it turned out the car's system had started itself up. On the screen, it said, "Factory mode is upgrading." I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. Since then, my range has been significantly worse. It dropped by a whopping 43 degrees of battery power. Now, my car can only be charged to about 33 degrees, but just because the battery is big doesn't mean you can use all of it. How much battery capacity the manufacturer allows you to use depends on their mood. Some manufacturers, like those of institutional cars, are quite unfair about it. They lock your battery usage too tightly. These domestically produced crappy electric cars should never mess with the minds of us ordinary folks. Alright, let me analyze it from the perspective of a car dealer. Why shouldn't you buy these crappy domestically produced electric cars? Is there something wrong with them? How does it feel when you drive them? The second-hand car market will give you feedback. Is this car good? We've been sweating and toiling for over a decade, saving tens of thousands, right? Now, as soon as these domestically produced electric cars hit the market, they're selling for 30 or 40, right? They sell it to you for 20-something, then when you want to change cars after driving it for a few years, oh, this car will at least appreciate by 60%. If you spend $27,700 to buy a car, 60% is $16,600. How much can you earn in a year? I replaced it on February 21st. Look, it's already worn out like this. Each replacement costs at least 350 yuan for a regular tire. I have to replace 2 at a time. At least there are expenses, right? It's been 2 days now, and I can't earn money anymore. Now, driving for a ride-hailing service, like after I bought this car, I'll never buy this car again. Over $4,167. I discovered the situation is more serious. Then, the front and rear were swapped, and I called the 4S store to inquire. They said your warranty has expired. When we're waiting for orders at the airport, I'll go check out other cars. Everyone does the same. Many are fully equipped, with good front wheels. Now it's very obvious, we can see the comparison between the inner and outer sides of the tire. The grooves on the outer side are still relatively deep, but the inner side is almost level. This means there's a problem with the suspension data. What issues have you encountered? My Ideal L8, after being parked for 4 months, at their official service center? I found traces of repairs on the bottom of the power battery, and Ideal explicitly told me that this occurred before delivery. So, I raised 2 demands with Ideal. The first demand is to provide me with a written report on the time and reasons for the battery repair, along with related technology. The second point is that there was no clear notification of the power battery being repaired when the car was delivered, which is suspected of fraud. However, Ideal has taken a perfunctory and evasive attitude towards my 2 demands. The first demand was only verbally acknowledged, and as for the second demand, they did not reply. By adopting such an evasive attitude, they are essentially saying that if they know there's a problem, they won't respond to you, they'll just leave you hanging. Yes, they will only tell me that our product is qualified and does not affect safety. The power battery is a core component of a new energy vehicle, and if it's damaged, there's a major safety risk. I also want to tell my friends in front of the screen about Ideal cars. Actually, I've never really recommended people to buy them because, as a new force, they're just an integrator of suppliers, using refrigerators, TVs, and big sofas to attract more consumers to buy. But in terms of its essential quality control and overall driving experience, among many forms, it's definitely in the bottom tier. One of their power batteries had a problem before delivery, but when it comes to this situation, for old users, they not only say they will get pricked, but also ignore the demands of old users. This kind of approach is really disheartening. If you want to buy an Ideal car, you must think twice, and we will also focus on this matter. Alright, thank you. How much does the G2S MVD cost? After everything is done, it's nearly 1.5 million. Just on the first day of getting the car, I found some fragments. I didn't pay attention to it then, and they didn't explain it. When I took the car for the second repair, I found that the car had been disassembled. Screws had been installed, yes, everything had been disassembled. On January 24, 2024, Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, warned that if we don't stop China, their cheap cars could put many other car companies out of business. China's BYD became the world's biggest seller of electric cars at the end of 2023, beating Tesla. Cars are super important in Europe, the US, and Japan. So, China flooding the market with cheap electric cars is a big problem for them. But for China, it's just business as usual. They did the same thing with cheap products in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and it hurt a lot of local jobs. Now they're doing it again with electric cars, using government help to make lots of them. People are starting to worry in Europe and the US about all these Chinese electric cars flooding in. It's not just about money, it's also about keeping our data safe. They're trying different ways to deal with it, like checking if the cars are safe or putting taxes on them. At first, China was just trying to sell electric cars to countries already trying to cut pollution. But now, with their economy struggling because of the pandemic, they see electric cars as a big chance to make money. China makes so much stuff now that they have more than they can sell in their own country. They've become a huge manufacturing powerhouse, making almost a third of the world's stuff in 2022 and selling almost 15% of everything traded between countries. That's way more than they used to make just 20 years ago. What drives China's ability to produce electric vehicles, EVs, at such low costs? Several factors contribute to this phenomenon. Firstly, China leverages the strategy of reverse engineering, effectively cutting down on initial research and development (R&D) expenses by replicating advanced technologies from other nations. Secondly, the government plays a significant role by providing substantial subsidies to foster EV development. This collaborative effort between the government, academia, and research institutions has propelled Chinese companies like BYD to the forefront of the EV industry, akin to how Huawei dominates the telecommunications sector. Furthermore, China's prominence in the global market for industrial robots and early adoption of smart manufacturing practices, including the establishment of dark factories, have helped minimize labor costs. However, the most influential factor lies in the extensive incentives and subsidy policies implemented over the past decade. These initiatives have propelled China to become the largest market for EVs globally, giving it substantial control over the entire EV supply chain, from raw materials to finished products. The Chinese government proudly showcases this achievement as a testament to its leadership and commitment to technological advancement, aiming to bolster national morale. Previously, mainland China's automotive industry primarily focused on domestic competition, characterized by intense and cutthroat rivalry. However, this competitive landscape has now expanded onto the global stage, disrupting what was once a stable and balanced international industry. The repercussions of this shift are profound. Firstly, the closure of production lines in traditional automotive powerhouses like Europe, America, and Japan looms large, potentially resulting in widespread unemployment. Secondly, the high domestication ratio of Chinese EVs poses a significant challenge. If these domestically manufactured vehicles flood foreign markets, engaging in unfair trade practices such as dumping, it could devastate regions or countries with limited EV production capabilities. Lastly, the introduction of Chinese EVs into foreign markets often comes bundled with additional services, such as remote entertainment and data collection, further tilting the balance of the service market. In essence, China's ascendancy in the EV industry signifies a seismic shift in the global automotive landscape, presenting both opportunities and challenges for stakeholders worldwide.